morning.
Good morning.
I've spoken to you on numerous occasions about what I do, estate planning, trusts, and probates. And today I brought some friends that I met on my last cruise to help you visualize the three most common reasons why people come to do estate planning with me. So today I want to introduce you to the probate penguin, the tax turtle, and the fish family. And of course my son named all of these. They look soft and cuddly, these little sea creatures, and they are, but they can also get in your way of proper estate planning. So I want to talk to you today about the three reasons why people do estate planning. The most common reason is to avoid probate. And the mechanism we normally use to avoid probate is the revocable living trust. And I've had the pleasure of assisting many people in this room with their own revocable living trust, as well as probates and trust administration. What we do for a trust is we draft the trust document, and if you own real estate in California, we also assist you with putting your real estate into the trust. And that's really the simple process that there is to avoid probate. When you don't do that, the probate penguin appears. And he can really slow you down, because what happens is your assets get frozen for a period of time. And it usually takes over a year to actually get your assets out of the probate penguin's grasp. What happens is there's a 2-month period, first to get the administrator or the executor appointed. After those couple months, you think you've waited so long, there's another period of at least 4 months. And that's the time for creditors to come forward and file claims. And they would be, legal claims, medical bills, funeral bills, tax bills, credit card bills, and so forth. So the reason it takes so long, it's the slow process of getting everything cleared so that title can go on to your heirs. But the probate penguin, he's also kind of a paparazzi hound, so he likes being in the spotlight. Probates are very public proceedings. We've all learned that with the Michael Jackson probate. We all know all the dirt that's going on with his family and his probate estate because it's a public record. And the same thing can happen to you. When you go to probate, it has to be published in a local newspaper. All your assets are listed and they're filed with the court. They're appraised by the court. And then at the end of the probate, after a year or so, names and addresses of your beneficiaries, your family, they're listed, and exactly what they inherit and how much it's worth. So if you like being in the probate penguin spotlight, that's what you do. But it's something, one of these creatures that you don't have to visit if you do a proper trust. The next common reason people do estate planning is to avoid the tax turtle. So the tax turtle is friends with the IRS, Again, they look soft and cuddly, but they got a hard shell. It's pretty hard to break through a tax barrier when you owe the tax. As you all know, taxes can really snap a large portion of your estate, and that's where it goes. It goes to taxes. A couple days ago, you all know we were teetering on the fiscal cliff. And that was going to have a huge impact on estate taxes. Had Congress not made their decision and their compromise, there would have been a 55% tax on every estate over $1 million. So that would have been, a huge loss to beneficiaries. But in this case, we were lucky. Congress did make that compromise. And they did make the estate tax exemption of $5 million with an index for inflation. And they did compromise on the estate tax rate at 40% instead of 55%. So this does help estates that are below $5 million. But at our office, we still watch out for that tax turtle so he doesn't snap your estate. And people who have estates over $5 million should incorporate the tax planning into their trust. The other time that people need to see us or a tax planning attorney is almost any time there is an estate administration. If you're an administrator, spouse, and your spouse is deceased, there is a new provision actually from 2010 that allows a spouse to utilize the deceased spouse's estate tax exemption. So you can actually utilize that, but you have to do it within 9 months after your spouse passes away. So this is something that you can do in the last couple of years, and Congress just added this to the estate tax bill so that it will continue. So it is important to avoid the tax turtle by seeing us for proper advice very shortly after a death when you're in charge of the estate. Oops. The one that got away, almost got away. Here's the fish family. So this is the third common reason why people do estate planning, and that's to protect and give instructions to your family and your beneficiaries. Sometimes there's just one fish, sometimes there's a whole school of fish. But not all fish are as cute as this one, and not all fish are as smart as this one. Sometimes they don't get away. Sometimes they end up in a can. Sometimes they get trapped in nets. So we're here to help your family and help you stay out of the nets. Sometimes your fish are good, and sometimes your fish family are very slimy and rotten. So when you schedule a complimentary estate planning appointment, we can help talk to you about it. We'll listen to your fish stories. You know, I have some people tell me their estate is this big, you know, when actually it's this big. Some people tell me their estate is this big, and it's actually this big. So it really makes a difference, but you can come in and tell us your story. The moral of my story is between the probate penguin, tax turtle, and your fish family, there's a lot of creatures out there, and when you're ready to discuss it, you know, you can see I'm creative with estate planning ideas. I can help make your estate plan creative, and I encourage you to take advantage of our LaTip relationship to come in for a complimentary meeting so we can discuss your options, and you can tell me your fish stories. But before I go, I want to remind you that some attorneys out there are sharks. You don't want that. Instead, let me work for you. Let me take care of these creatures so you're in control of your own estate plan, so you don't get eaten by the sharks. And remember, Alban is the man for your estate plan. All right.
Question?
All right. If we have time, if we have time for questions, remember, you know, nothing confidential, obviously, but.
Other question, you mentioned new law for spouses, like 9 months after death. What are you referring to?
That is an estate tax law. It allows you to utilize your deceased spouse's unused estate tax exemption. So if your spouse passed away and was worth $2 million, and they're not using $3 million of their estate tax exemption, if you file an estate tax return and show that, you can claim that $3 million in addition to the $5 million estate tax exemption you have, and when you pass away, you might be able to shield $8 million from estate
I'm glad
tax.
you told me that.
So
John, tell me, what creature did you not bring that was pleasant enough for this group to represent the IRS?
Oh gosh, the IRS. We probably would have had a giant squid, I guess, with its tentacles on every part. So maybe next Christmas or Hanukkah we'll have a tentacled creature for my son.
There was no creature that was associated with that in your.
Yes, and I would pass these out, but they're very dear to him. It was hard to steal them away from a sleeping baby, but I mean.
One last question.
All right,
regarding the inheritance tax exclusion, so there's a $5 million exclusion, and then the rate is what, 40% on every single amount above the $5 million?
Above the $5 million, yes. Actually indexed for inflation, so this year it's currently $5,120,000. So that amount, if you haven't used it during your lifetime, is excluded. So estates under that amount wouldn't be subject to estate tax, but the first dollar over that and everything else is 40% of that does go to the IRS. So like on a $10 million estate, you might have $5 million at 40%. So $2 million of that might be due, and that's due within 9 months after someone passes.